Okay, let's jump right in. What if I told you that understanding ancient military strategy could actually help you win your next negotiation?
Sounds like a bit of a stretch, maybe.
Maybe, but that's what we're doing in this deep dive. We're looking at The Art of War, the classic by Sun Tzu.
Right. But not just reading it. We're digging in to pull out stuff that's, well, surprisingly relevant for you today.
Exactly. And what's cool is we've got different takes on it. There's a French translation, an English
And
one.
commentaries from guys like Tao Tsao and Tu Mu,
Yeah.
historical figures weighing in. It gives you a much richer picture,
Yeah.
different angles.
Totally. So our mission here for you listening is to cut through all that and grab the key ideas, those sort of aha moments about strategy, leadership, conflict.
Without getting totally swamped in ancient history. Quick knowledge, but deep.
Right. So let's start with something that feels really modern, knowing your team, like really knowing them.
Yeah, the French text really hammers this.
Hmm.
Sun Tzu says you need basically a catalog of your officers,
Hmm.
notes on their talents, their capacities.
It's not just a head count then.
Not at all.
Hmm.
It's about optimal deployment, knowing who fits where. Like you wouldn't use a screwdriver to hammer a nail, right?
Makes sense. And it goes deeper, doesn't it? About making sure they trust you.
Absolutely. They need to believe, genuinely believe, that you've got their backs, that their well-being is your priority. If they don't, forget motivation.
Yeah, that tracks. And then there's that image, stones against eggs.
Oh yeah, oh, stark, isn't it? It's about the sheer advantage you get from proper preparation, from understanding the situation better. It creates this massive disparity.
And winning secretly while attacking openly, what's that about? Sounds tricky.
It's very strategic. Think chess. You make a move that looks like the main attack, but your real goal, the checkmate, is being set up somewhere else. The opponent doesn't see it coming until it's too late.
Okay. Let's switch to the English translations. Discipline and accountability seem huge here.
Oh, absolutely central. Sun Tzu is crystal clear. If commands are confusing or people don't get them, that's on the general. His fault.
Right.
But if the orders are clear and people still disobey, then it's the officers under the general who are responsible. It's a clear chain.
No ambiguity there.
None. And he backs it up with that pretty dramatic story, right? Executing the leaders of the king's favorite concubines' training companies.
Whoa, even when the king objected.
Even then, Sun Tzu basically said, look, in the drill yard, my orders are absolute. It wasn't just about them. It was a massive signal about standards, non-negotiable.
Wow, imagine the silence after that. It sends a message. Rules apply. To everyone, no exceptions.
Exactly. That kind of consistency builds trust. You know, people know where they stand. Crucial in the army, crucial in a company today.
Makes you think, doesn't it? How often do we really stick to standards when it gets awkward?
Good question. Now, it helps to put this in context. Tao's preface. It links this military thinking to like the whole tradition of governance. He references classic texts.
Like the Lun Yu I Ching.
Yeah, those big ones. It shows military strength wasn't seen as this separate, aggressive thing.
Hmm.
It was part of maintaining order, part of good government.
So not just war for war's sake.
Definitely not. Cao Cao actually warns about going too far, either way too warlike or too peaceful. He uses examples like Fu Chai and Yan Wang. It's about balance, knowing when to use which tool.
The wise leader keeps the peace, if possible.
Right. Force is the last resort. It's pragmatic. Use it only when you have to fix a problem or restore that balance.
And winning. It's not always about having the bigger army, is it?
Sun Tzu argues strongly against that. He says you can win against a bigger force. He points to the state of you doing just that.
So it's about strategy, preparation.
Exactly. Exploiting weaknesses. Thinking smarter, not just throwing more people at the problem.
There's that analogy, too, about the enemies in the boat, Wu and Yu.
Ah, yes. Classic. These two states hated each other, but stick their people in the same boat during a storm. Suddenly they cooperate to survive.
Because the immediate threat overrides the old conflict.
Precisely. It shows how shared circumstances, a common immediate goal, can make even enemies work together. Think about a tough negotiation. Maybe both sides just want a deal, any deal, to avoid a worse outcome. That's a shared interest right there.
So what is the point of military power, then, in this view, if not just conquest?
It's framed as a tool for the wise ruler. To stop violence, bring peace, solve problems, help people in danger. It's a means to a positive end.
And it acknowledges the human side, too, emotions and all that.
Oh yeah. Love, hate, joy, anger. Sun Tzu mentions them. They influence how people act in conflict. You can't ignore that. People aren't robots.
Important on the battlefield, important in the boardroom.
Absolutely. Understanding those human drivers is key. And he criticizes those scholars, the ones who just condemn any military action without seeing when it might be necessary.
Saying that could lead to weakness, getting walked over.
Essentially, yes. Sometimes inaction is the worst choice. There's even that comparison to a teacher needing a rod or the state needing punishments. Military action is like that, sometimes needed to maintain order.
That's a tough analogy.
It is. And Tumu, in his preface, really leans into this. He calls war a form of punishment, a function of government. He draws parallels between legal penalties and army actions taking cities, capturing people.
Even beheading.
Yeah, it's stark. But he argues the goal for both is the same. Get rid of the bad guys, bring relief to the good guys.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Sun Tzu lays out these 5, fundamental factors for warfare. What are they?
These are the big ones you need to assess constantly. First, the moral law. Think of it as how aligned your people are with you and the mission. Do they trust you? Will they follow you into danger?
Okay, alignment. Got it.
Second, the commander's ability. Wisdom, integrity, courage, compassion, discipline. The whole package.
Leadership quality. Makes sense.
Third, heaven and earth. That's basically the environment, the conditions, terrain, weather, resources.
The context you're operating in.
Exactly. Fourth, discipline. Rigorously enforced. We talked about that.
Yeah, the concubines.
Right. And fifth, certainty of reward and punishment. People need to know what happens if they excel and what happens if they fail or disobey. No surprises.
So moral law, commander, environment, discipline, rewards, punishments. That's the checklist for predicting victory or defeat.
Pretty much. They're all interconnected. Weakness in one affects the others.
And then, deception. This seems to be the absolute core.
It really is. He flat out says, all warfare is based on deception. It's not just a tactic, it's the foundation.
And he gives examples, right?
Loads of them. Seem weak when you're strong, look inactive when you're about to strike, appear far when you're near when you're far.
It's all about messing with the enemy's head, controlling what they think they know.
Precisely. Use bait to lure them. Pretend to be disorganized to make them overconfident. It's about shaping their reality.
Okay, but war isn't just clever tricks. There's a real cost involved.
Oh, Sun Tzu is very clear on this.
Yeah.
The daily expense of a large army is enormous. He's thinking about logistics, supplies, the whole economic engine needed.
And long wars. And bad news.
Very bad news. Weapons get dull, soldiers get tired, morale drops, money runs out. And while you're bogged down, someone else might see an opportunity to attack you. It's a downward spiral.
So speed is key.
Absolutely. He says cleverness in war is never associated with long delays. History, he argues, shows no country benefiting from a prolonged war.
You have to understand how bad war can be to appreciate why you need to end it quickly.
Exactly. That's the insight. So the skillful general avoids needing a second draft, avoids multiple long supply runs. Efficiency is paramount.
And living off the land, foraging on the enemy.
Yeah, that's in there. Use the enemy's resources to sustain your own army. Pragmatic, definitely. Keeps your own economy from collapsing under the strain.
Because supporting an army, especially far away, just drains your own resources.
Hugely. And even if the army is close by, it drives up prices, disrupts the local economy. It's a burden either way.
He even talks about capturing stuff, right? Chariots, soldiers.
Yes. Reward the soldiers who capture the first chariots. Use the captured equipment. Treat captured soldiers, and well, maybe they'll even fight for you. It's about incorporating gains, not just destroying things.
Which ties into taking the enemy's country intact, if possible.
Right. Why destroy what you hope to gain? Capturing enemy units whole is better than wiping them out. It strengthens you directly.
What about sieges? Sounds like something to avoid.
Definitely a last resort.
Yeah.
Preparing siege equipment, mantlets, shelters, building rams takes months. It's slow, costly.
And dangerous for the general's patience.
Big time. The risk is they get frustrated and order a premature assault, like ants swarming a wall, losing a third of their men for nothing. Patience is vital, but sieges test it severely.
Sun Tzu also points out ways a ruler specifically can mess things up for their army.
Yeah, 3 key ways, and they feel very relevant even outside of war. First, ordering the army to advance or retreat when the commander on the ground knows it's impossible or unwise.
Right.
Basically micromanaging from afar without knowing the situation. He calls it hobbling the army.
Ouch. Okay, what's number 2?
Trying to run an army the same way you run a kingdom. Ignoring the specific military realities, the chain of command, the unique conditions, this just makes the soldiers restless and confused.
Applying the wrong management style.
Yeah.
Got it. And the third?
Employing commanders without considering their actual qualifications. Putting the wrong people in charge because of politics or favoritism. This leads to chaos and undermines trust.
Hobbling the army, causing restlessness, promoting incompetence. Wow. Still happens today, doesn't it?
Sadly, yes. It's striking how timeless those warnings are.
He also says true skill isn't just about brute force, right?
Not at all. It's about strategic insight. He uses analogies. Seeing the sun and moon isn't sharp sight. Hearing thunder isn't a quick ear. Real skill is seeing the subtle, understanding the underlying dynamics.
So the clever fighter doesn't just win, they win easily.
That's the ideal. They secure victory with minimal effort because they position themselves so well beforehand.
And he breaks down assessing victory into stages, like a process.
Yeah, 5 stages. It's quite systematic. First, measurement of the ground, the space. Second, estimation of quantity, enemy strength, resources. Third, calculation comparing your numbers and theirs. Fourth, balancing of chances, weighing the probabilities based on everything.
In fifth.
Victory. It naturally follows if the balance is heavily in your favor. He compares a victorious army to a pound weight against a single grain overwhelming advantage, or like pent-up water bursting through a dam, unstoppable force.
Okay, let's talk energy and tempo. How do you manage that in battle?
It's about control and timing. You manage a large force, like a small one, through clear divisions, sub-commanders, and signals, flags, drums, gongs. Keep everyone focused.
In the mix of direct and indirect attacks.
That's key, like combinations in boxing. They flow into each other endlessly. The attack should hit like a rushing torrent, but the decision to attack needs the precision timing of a falcon striking its prey.
Energy like a bent crossbow. Decision like pulling the trigger.
Great analogy, yeah. It's potential energy released at the perfect moment.
And deception comes back again here, like pretending to be weak.
Yes, the story of Cao Tzu fooling the Sengnu spies. Show them your weak soldiers. Hide your strong ones. Make them underestimate you. It's a recurring theme. Control the information.
The skillful attacker strikes where the defense is unprepared.
And the skillful defender holds positions the enemy can't possibly figure out how to attack. It's about being subtle, secret, almost invisible, and inaudible strategically.
So you can advance without resistance.
Ideally, yes. Attack undefended spots. Show up where they least expect you. March rapidly through territory they don't think you can cross.
And if you try to defend everywhere,
you end up weak everywhere. Frederick the Great apparently said something similar. You spread yourself too thin.
Whereas if you force the enemy to prepare against you everywhere,
then they become weak. You concentrate your strength while they disperse theirs. Carl Henderson's quote touches on that. It's about seizing the initiative.
Knowing the time and place lets you concentrate forces, like Blucher at Waterloo.
Exactly. But Sun Tzu constantly reminds us, conditions change. Like water adapting to the ground, you have to adapt your tactics. No fixed plan survives contact with the enemy, right? You need flexibility.
Maneuvering sounds like a real art form itself.
It is. Wu Tzu talks about getting the army unified and harmonious before even making camp. It's about cohesion. And maneuvering isn't just about moving troops, it's about turning a difficult route into the best one, turning potential disaster into an advantage.
Like Hannibal or Napoleon crossing the Alps.
Perfect examples, taking the unexpected, difficult path to achieve surprise. But, he warns, trying fancy maneuvers with an undisciplined mob, that's asking for trouble.
There are risks, trade-offs. Marching fast might mean leaving supplies behind.
Right. Or you get there exhausted. Forced marches are tough. Wellington knew that. The hardship can be worse than battle itself, and marching huge distances to try and outflank someone rarely works as well as you'd hope. You lose troops, leaders get worn out.
So supply lines, baggage trains, bases, absolutely critical.
Non-negotiable. An army starves without them. And to keep morale up, share the loot. Give soldiers a stake in the territory you capture. Incentives matter.
What about coordinating on the battlefield? All that noise and chaos.
Signals are key. Gongs, drums for sound, banners, flags for sight. They focus attention, direct movement. But above all, the commander needs a cool head. Presence of mind. Li Qing said you should attack the enemy's mind, their balance.
And timing based on morale. Morning keenness, evening slump.
Yeah, attack when the enemy is sluggish, thinking about heading back to camp. Study their moods, appear weak to make them arrogant. Wait calmly while they're in disarray. Create illusions like Fu Yanqing, using a dust storm to fake troop movements.
Okay, the 9 situations, or 9 varieties of ground. This sounds complex.
It is detailed but logical. He categorizes terrain based on its strategic implications. Dispersive ground, your own territory. Facile, easy but shallow penetration. Contentious, key strategic points. Open, allows free movement. Intersecting highways affects alliances. Serious, deep in enemy territory. Difficult, mountains, marshes. Hemmed in, limited escape. And desperate, no escape.
And for each one, there's a different approach.
Exactly. On dispersive ground, focus on unity. Facile, keep contact with your rear. Contentious, don't attack head-on. Try to outmove her. Open, try to secure high ground or block the enemy. Intersecting, make alliances. Serious, ensure constant supply. Difficult, keep moving. Hemmed in, use clever tricks. Desperate, fight like hell because you have no choice.
The main point being,
Adapt. Assess the enemy, assess the ground, modify your tactics. There's no single magic formula. The truly great commander, the heaven-born captain, knows how to bend the rules and adapt to win. Like the seasons change, like the elements aren't fixed, war is fluid.
just as important as knowing the ground is knowing the enemy's weaknesses, right? Their faults.
Crucial. Sun Tzu lists 5 dangerous faults in a general. Recklessness, fighting just to fight. Cowardice, being paralyzed by fear. Irritability, easily provoked, poor decisions. Oversensitivity about honor, leading to timidity, and excessive compassion for his men, which can prevent necessary risks or discipline, though this one needs careful balance.
Those can lead to ruin. And he details different ways armies fall apart.
Yes. Flight, unequal forces, insubordination, strong soldiers, weak officers. Collapse, strong officers, weak soldiers. Ruin, senior officers angry and acting rashly. Disorganization, weak general, unclear commands. Rout, total breakdown, no formations, retreat, often stems from leadership failure.
But you still need to treat soldiers humanely, like Wu Chi.
Absolutely. That's the balance. Treat them like beloved sons and they'll follow you into the deepest valley. But maintain strict discipline. They need both care and clear boundaries.
So find those weaknesses, exploit them. Attack when they're not ready, where they're not looking.
Exactly. Disrupt their plans, make them vulnerable. Use the terrain high ground. Sunny spots are generally better. Watch for signs. Rising dust could mean chariots. Low dust could be infantry. Scattered dust means firewood collectors.
Startled birds mean an ambush. Humble words but increased preparations mean they plan to attack. Violent language before advancing means they might actually retreat.
You got it. Observing these subtle clues is key intelligence gathering. Understand the psychology, the rhythm of battle, the morale shifts. Act unexpectedly. Use the wind. Use the terrain.
He compares the ideal army to a snake, the shuai-zhan.
Yeah, strike its head, the tail attacks, strike the tail, the head attacks, strike the middle, both attack. It means total coordination, instant response, everyone working together.
Unity of purpose, leading them like a single person.
That's the goal. And the general needs to be, well, quiet or secretive about plans, upright and just to maintain order, but also able to mystify the enemy and even his own troops about his ultimate intentions.
Don't tell them the whole plan, just give them the task, like Lord Mansfield's advice.
Precisely. Show them the potential reward, but maybe conceal the full risks until they're committed. Sometimes, putting the army in a death ground situation where retreat is impossible is the only way to unlock that desperate fighting spirit that ensures survival.
Okay, fire attacks. Sounds dramatic.
It is 5 ways. Burn camps, stores, supply lines, arsenals, or just hurl fire among the enemy. But you need the means, the materials, the right conditions.
Dry weather, windy days.
Exactly. He even gets into which moon constellations supposedly indicate wind. You need to watch for the right moment, the right development. If fire breaks out inside their camp, attack from outside. If they stay calm despite the fire, wait. Attack when the flames peak if you can. Always attack from windward.
Wind direction is critical.
Absolutely. And know that daytime winds last longer than night winds. It's all about calculation, observation. Fire shows intelligence, he says. Water attacks add strength, can isolate an enemy, but can't destroy their supplies in the same way.
And finally, spies. This seems like the ultimate key for Sun Tzu.
You could argue that. He hammers home the cost of not using spies. Raising an army costs a fortune. Marching them costs a fortune. If you fight for years because you don't know the enemy's situation, that's the real waste.
So being cheap about intelligence is the height of inhumanity, he says.
Pretty strong words, yeah. Because it leads to immense suffering that could potentially be avoided. Foreknowledge is everything. It lets the wise commander achieve things beyond ordinary reach.
And you can't get this foreknowledge from, like, prayers or guesswork.
Look, not from spirits, not just from past experience, not just from calculation. You get it from people. From spies who know the enemy's situation.
5 kinds of spies.
Yep, local spies, people from the enemy's district. Inward spies, officials within the enemy's government or army. Converted spies, enemy spies you've turned. Doomed spies, your own spies you deliberately feed false info knowing they'll be caught to mislead the enemy. And surviving spies, the classic agent who comes back with information.
Wow, that's elaborate. A whole system.
It is. And he says the converted spy is often the most crucial because they can help you recruit and manage the others. You need to treat spies well, pay them generously, be incredibly secret. Turin had similar maxims.
There's that story about killing a spy who revealed a secret after the fact just to ensure future secrecy.
Intense. Shows how vital secrecy was considered.
Hmm.
You need to know who's around the enemy general, their aides, their doorkeepers. You might even be able to use the enemy's own spies against them.
Using doomed spies for disinformation, surviving spies for specific missions.
Right. But the ultimate goal is knowledge, and the converted spy is often the best source. He cites history, the rise of the Yin dynasty, the Chao overthrowing the Xia, crediting their success partly to excellent intelligence.
So only the truly wise leaders understand how vital spies are.
That's his conclusion. Enlightened rulers, brilliant generals, they use the highest intelligence for spying, and that's how they achieve great things. Spies are essential. The army literally can't move effectively without them. But Tumu adds that final warning, doesn't he? Like water can float a boat or sink it. Spies give advantages, but mishandling them can be catastrophic.
Wow. Okay, that was definitely a deep dive. So pulling out some key things for you listening. First, that idea of really knowing your people, their strengths, their motivations, that's timeless, right? Applies anywhere.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And second, the power of shaping perception. Not lying, necessarily, but understanding how information is seen, how to position things strategically. That's huge in any negotiation, any competitive field.
And third, maybe that relentless focus on efficiency and speed, avoiding getting bogged down. Long conflicts drain resources, whether it's war, a business project, or even an argument. Decisiveness has value.
Definitely. And what's amazing is how these aren't just battlefield tactics. They're principles of strategy, leadership, understanding human nature in conflict. Incredibly relevant today. Thinking strategically, knowing your terrain, knowing your opponent, the human factors.
It really makes you think. So, as you go about your own challenges, your own battles, big or small, what bits of this ancient wisdom might you use? Could understanding people and perception be more important now than ever?
Something to chew on for sure.